Welcome to Kids Doc Talk with Dr. Jennie. Dr. Jennie is a board-certified pediatrician and is the Director of Telemedicine at Pediatric Associates.
Welcome to Kids Doc Talk with Dr. Jennie. Today's guest is Maves Ranola, a registered dietitian and Director of Nutrition Services for Lutheran Services Florida Children and Head Start Program. Maves is also a certified lactation counselor, yoga for kids and families teacher, Zumba instructor, and mom of 2 teenage kids. Welcome, Maves.
Hi, Maves. Welcome.
Hi. Nice to finally be here.
Yes, I'm excited you're here, and it is Nutrition Month. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we jump in, I want to understand a little bit about kind of like your day job and what it is that you do. So help me out.
Sure. So I am the Director of Nutrition Services for a large nonprofit social services agency here in Florida. I provide oversight and support for 2 of our programs. So one of them is our child care food program, right? And that we are the largest sponsoring agency in the state. And our program helps daycare homes, right, implement best practices to make sure that the children in their care receive nutritious foods, right? And then from those 400 daycare homes, they then receive reimbursement for meals and snacks that they serve. So that's quite a number of daycare home providers that we work with. Another part of my job is with our Head Start program. We are one of the largest Head Start programs in the Southeast United States. We're funded to serve about 5,000 children and families. And with that program, not only do we provide childhood early education, we provide health and developmental screenings, and of course, our balanced meals and snacks. Our kids get breakfast, lunch, and snack every time they are with us. And we also have families with navigating through the health system, helping them find medical care, dental care, providing them with opportunities for learning about child nutrition, learning about child health, child development, because we know, those first 5 years of life, very important. And we get a lot of these first-time parents that really need all the information that they can get.
So I love that. I actually am a big fan of Head Start. And just so for like my own education, Head Start is totally separate from WIC, right? Like unrelated.
Totally separate. Although a lot of the clients that we serve do get both the Head Start services and the WIC services, but totally separate.
Okay. All right. Got it. So, are you mostly like involved in actually creating like the meal plans and making recommendations to
Yes.
to the Head Start and to the Head Start program and like the pieces there? So, I guess maybe let's start there. How do you approach like a meal plan to make sure that it's nutritious and also interesting for the kids to eat?
Yes, absolutely. So we know research shows that well-nourished children, they are healthier, they're more attentive, they have better mental performance than children who are undernourished. So like I said before, the first 5 years of a child's life, they're very essential in preparing for their future, right? So when I'm planning a menu, I think about that, right? I consider the age of the children that we serve. Is it a classroom with 1 to 2-year-old kids, toddlers, right? Versus a classroom with 3 to 5-year-old preschool children, because there's a big developmental difference between the two, and as far as their eating is concerned, I want to make sure that I include foods with good sources of vitamin A, at least 2-3 times a week. Now that's your carrots, your mixed vegetables, your spinach, right? I include vitamin C sources every single day. Your oranges, your peaches, pineapple, broccoli, the good stuff, right? And then iron sources every day too. I look at the menu. I look to see, is there a variety? Is there, what's the taste like? The color, the texture, the child appeal. Because just like us, just us grown-ups, right? We eat with our eyes. Same thing with our kiddos, right? If something does not look good, the little kiddo may not want to try that, right? So I look to see if there's variety. I don't want to serve chicken every single day, right? There has to be a different main course every day. I look at the color, right? I don't want the same kind of colors on the same meal. I would not want to serve macaroni and cheese and peaches and corn in the same meal, right? I need some pop
That's
of
a lot
color
of
in
yellow.
there, right?
That's a
That's a
lot of
lot of
yellow on
yellow,
one plate.
right? I look at the texture, right? There's some textures that a 1-year-old may not be ready for that my 4-year-old may be ready for, right? So instead of apple slices for my 13-month-old kid, I might give that 13-month-old kid applesauce instead, right? So those are the different things that I think about. Being in a Head Start setting is really an excellent opportunity to make mealtime pleasant time, right? It's not just mealtime, it's still educational time for us. We teach our kids about table manners. We teach our kids about saying please and thank you. They have different responsibilities. Who's responsible for setting the table today, right? Every child is responsible for throwing their plate away when they're done, or cleaning up a mess if they made a mess. So it's not just eating time, right? We sit with the kids. It's family style dining. Our teachers sit down with the kids and enjoy that meal. It's conversation. So there's lots of things happening during classroom mealtime in our Head Start classes.
It sounds like there's a lot of parallels between what we advise families to do at home and how to set up mealtime and how to approach menu planning. Yep. To what you guys are doing in Head Start. So how do you kind of think about that? How do you work with families to make sure that all these wonderful habits that the kids are learning in the program are ones that are going to translate over to their meals at home?
Yeah. So we recognize that nutrition plays an important role, and we think of our parents as partners, right? We want the children to have the opportunity to eat nutritious foods with us and have those same experiences at home. So when the children are with us, we complete a nutrition assessment, right? With all our children. And based on that assessment, we work with the families with whatever nutrition concerns they may have. So we address any inappropriate feeding practices, or whatever nutrition concerns that they may have. We offer them nutrition counseling. We have kids who may be on a therapeutic diet, right, because of a food intolerance or a food allergy, or it could be a disability, right? So those are things that we address with them. We have children who are underweight, who are overweight, who could be anemic, right? So those are things that we offer counseling to those families. We teach our families about healthy eating. We teach them about negative consequences of sugar sweetened beverages, which I feel like it's a big topic, right? And also how to select nutritious foods that meet their family's needs, not just nutritionally, but also their food budgets, right? Because that's very important. We also let our families know about community resources like WIC that they may not be familiar with or know how to apply, or apply for SNAP, which is another resource that they may be eligible for. So we talk a lot with our families, and we have registered dietitians in our different programs to make sure that there's one available for them.
So you mentioned bad food habits, right? So when I think about that, when I heard that, what I'm thinking is the parent that's running after their kid, trying to spoon feed them while maybe a TV is blaring and the kid is really trying to play. So I'm always trying to reinforce the idea that mealtime should be dedicated mealtime, but it should be, not stressful and drama free, which I know sometimes is very challenging. Is that kind of what you mean, or are there other additional bad habits that you really try to counsel against?
Oh yeah, so that's one of them. Or just watching TV while the kids are eating, because then you're not paying attention to really what you're doing. You're not enjoying the taste. You're not enjoying, just the whole pleasurable eating experience, right? And we do that too as grown-ups, right? So we need to really build that healthy eating habit at home.
We've talked about picky eating on the podcast before, and I know that's a major concern for parents, and one that comes up so frequently where they maybe they're hearing this discussion and they're like, yes, corn and peaches and spinach and broccoli, yes to all of that, but I know if I serve that to my kid, they're just going to refuse, right? And the common phrase that I often hear is they won't eat anything, or the only thing they'll eat is, and then insert whatever, chicken nuggets or mac and cheese or or whatever. So I sort of have what some might call a militant approach where I'm very into like, this is what you get and there's no backup plan, and there should be something on the plate that they will eat and they enjoy, but they're right, there should be a variety, and if they don't want it, that's okay, drama free, but there's no alternative offered, and sometimes that's challenging for parents. Is that kind of similar? Because I imagine in maybe a Head Start program that could be challenging to kind of enforce and implement.
It could be challenging. So one of the things that we do is we offer variety, right? We offer variety. We know that accepting and eating a wide variety of food, that happens over time, right? Especially if you're new to a child care setting. So when we introduce kids to new foods like vegetables, that can take some creative planning and, again, meal presentation, right? So it's important that we keep a variety of foods that in our menus to keep the meals interesting and flavorful. Same thing at home, right? We have to keep it interesting. We have to keep it flavorful. It also helps because, not one food will give us all the nutrients that we need, right? So we have to have that variety. Each food has a unique mix of our macronutrients and our micronutrients, right? Our carbs, our proteins, our vitamins and minerals. So as teachers and as parents, we have that important role in helping children learn about food. So we're responsible for providing that variety. We know that with variety, children are more likely to try new foods and to like more foods. So when they develop a taste for many foods, it's going to be easier for parents to plan their family meals, right? There are so many children who are hesitant to try a new food, and that's completely normal.
That's normal. Yeah, normal. I love that. I love that you're normalizing that, because I love normalizing it, because I think adults sometimes forget that when we are introduced to new foods as adults, sometimes it's weird and you don't like stuff right away, and that's okay, right? Acquire taste. That's a phrase we often use. Exactly. And I think we forget that foods that are common to us and are brand new to kids may also need that little bit of time and wiggle room to just get used to.
Exactly. So, it's normal for kids to reject a food that they've never tried before. We have to remind our parents to just be patient and keep trying. Don't be afraid to mix things up. Children need at least 5, sometimes 20 exposures to a new food before they even want to try it. The first time it could be that they just look at it. That's okay.
It's okay.
The next time they might want to touch it. The next time they might smell it. It might take 10 times before they even try and taste it. They might taste it and they might spit it back out. That's okay. It's normal, right? Young children need to learn about their food, right? And that's just part of their learning. It's going to take a few times before they even try and take that bite. So good for parents to talk about the foods. Let's make it into an adventure, right? Let's read a story about it. Let's talk about a new culture that has these types of foods, right? Let's talk about the color. Let's talk about how it smells. Let's talk about how it feels. Don't expect our kids to like everything. We don't like everything, right? Kids are allowed to have likes and dislikes, just like us.
For sure.
Normal.
Yeah, I love all the kind of hands-on, right, that you're encouraging, right? Let's touch it, let's play with it, let's poke at it, let's read a book about it. Sometimes I'll often encourage families to get the kids involved in the food prep, even, right, going to the grocery store and maybe picking out the foods and say like, hey, this is the vegetable aisle. Let's pick 3 like exciting new, fun colored vegetables. Let's see if we can find a purple, right, fruit or vegetable today. Right, kind of get them involved in that. So obviously, we talked about picky eating. That I would say is probably the biggest, or rather most common challenge in terms of introducing diversity of foods and promoting healthy eating habits. Any other challenges that you kind of see with the patient population that you serve?
Sure. One good challenge or one misconception that I hear a lot is growing children need all the calories that they can get. They're going to lose all that baby weight when they hit puberty, right? So sometimes when we encourage our parents to come and spend some time at the center, and sometimes I may get the comment that, oh, that's not enough food, right? And well, I tell my parents, it's true. Children need all the nutrients that they get because of the many changes that their bodies are going through. But they need to get those from the right sources, right? They need to get them from fruits. They need to get them from vegetables, healthy meats, not the processed foods, because of, so that they can maintain their healthy weight. So the amount of food that we serve really depends on the age of the child, right? They're thinking about their own portion sizes and not the preschool portion sizes, right? So it might not look a lot, but it's really just the right portion for that toddler or preschool age, right? So a quarter cup of a vegetable is good for a 3-year-old, but for us, for adults, it's half a cup, right? So there's a big difference, right? It's good to offer them that right portion because it helps the kids learn, to pay attention to whether they're still hungry, whether they're still full, right? The smaller amounts help them, kind of, just eat what their body needs, right? And, if they're still hungry, they can ask for more, right? So, I tell my parents, try to use smaller bowls, smaller plates for smaller portions at home. Let that child practice serving himself or herself food. We're so afraid to make a mess, right? But that's how we're teaching our kids about those skills, right? They have to learn, they have to do it, and they're going to learn by doing it, right? So, and I also remind my parents, don't force the kids to finish everything on their plate. Right.
That's a big one. That's a big one. We're very obsessed with that. And I understand why, because we're don't want to be wasteful, right? Or maybe we already made the mess and so now you need to eat it. But I agree. I think that hunger cues that you're talking about, making sure they learn to understand when they're hungry or understand when they're full, that's a very challenging skill. That's a skill that as an adult, right, people are still working on. I'm definitely still working on this because when you have a cake, you want to eat the cake, the piece of cake. You're not necessarily thinking about oh, I don't really need any more cake. So I think it's a very important and useful skill to learn early on. And sometimes that means not finishing what's on your plate, which I think is uncomfortable for us.
Yes. But, we never force our kids to finish their plates. We encourage our kids to try their foods. It's their choice. If they want to, they do. If they don't, that's okay. We'll try it again next time. Huh?
Yeah, that's a hard one. So picky eating, right? Getting them to try a variety of food, not making meal time stressful. A challenging one for me when I talk to families, because I don't know that I have a lot of tools to navigate this necessarily, is food budget, right? If we say, right, fruits and vegetables and whole grains, they're listen, I know, but all those things cost more than processed fast foods, and or right, if you have working families or right, a dual working parent household, you don't have time to sit there and chop up salad, and it's much easier to just get takeout. So I think that those resources of time and money are sometimes very valid reasons that people aren't necessarily making the choices they want for their kids' nutrition.
Right. I think one of the challenges, especially in our population that we serve, is definitely childhood food insecurity.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a big challenge. I know in the last, some of the research that I've seen, that we have about 9 million children in the U.S. that live in food insecure households. So those are households that, don't have enough food for every member of the family to lead a healthy life. Right? That's a large number. And we know that there are a lot of literature out there that links food insecurity and poor child health and behavioral outcomes, right? The poor educational outcomes, poor health status, oral health problems, amongst other things.
All the things, which isn't shocking, right? When you're hungry, you don't really have room to think about anything else. When you're hungry, the most important thing for you is to eat, not to be sitting and learning.
Right. And it can look like behavioral problems in a classroom. It can definitely look like behavioral problems, before mealtime or on a Friday before, the weekend is here, or on a Monday when the kids are coming back in from a dysregulated environment, over the weekend. It can look like, hoarding. It can look like, kids who are trying to take food home or, and it's not so much a behavioral issue, but it's just really a food insecurity issue. And then some people, when I tell them that there's a link with food insecurity and obesity, Right? And I'm like, well, how can that be?
Seems
But it's true.
counterintuitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Food insecure, low income families, they're especially vulnerable because just of the challenges that they have, right? Adopting the healthy behaviors, limited resources,
Yeah.
lack of access, high levels of stress, right? And really just even opportunities for physical activity.
Yeah.
So, we try and tell our parents about resources that are out there that could assist them with that. So it's programs like SNAP or WIC, childcare food program. Our kids that attend our program, we provide them the meals and snacks at no cost to our families. If our families let us know that they are in need, we help them find those resources. And not just find those resources, but teach them about food budgeting, teach them about creating those meal plans. I've done grocery shopping tours with our families, teaching them how to read food labels, teaching them how to read the labels at the grocery store to try and get the most food for their buck, right? You don't always have to buy fresh produce. Sometimes it may work better for you to buy frozen produce.
Frozen, yeah.
Um,
Or even
because you
canned
don't,
vegetables
or can.
sometimes, right? Canned fruits and vegetables often, not always, right? But often are an appropriate substitute.
Correct, right. Because
Yeah.
you may not, you may not be able to cook every single day, and
Yeah.
that's okay. You can pre-plan for the week, and then save some up for the following day. So it really just depends on your family's schedule. But it can work. It just takes some time and some planning.
For sure. Sounds like there's a lot of good resources available as well that families and even maybe pediatricians can help families kind of apply for and see if they're appropriate. So I want to circle back on something that you said earlier on about cultural diversity and kind of how a family's cultural background may play into their preferred meal plan. So how do you guys work with like cultural differences and food preferences and practices?
Sure. We know that culture affects eating habits of kids, right? Most children share food preferences similar to those of their parents, because it's our parents who are, who have been making food choices for us since we were born, right? So we know that families differ in their feeding practices and mealtime routines based on their cultural practices. So we know this. So with our work, we make sure that we increase our knowledge about culturally responsive feeding practices. We understand. We understand that we all come from different backgrounds, different cultures. So when parents say that their children cannot eat animal products because they are not halal, right? We need to have further discussion on what that means to your family, because what that means for one family may not necessarily mean the same for you, right? So then we let that family know, well, these are the other things that we can offer. We have fish, we have eggs, we have cheese, we have yogurt, we have beans, things that are halal. Is this what you are talking about? Will this work for you? We use culturally responsive language, things like, we would not say, finish all the food on your plate, right? But we might say, you can stop eating when you feel full, right? So there's things that, we may say in our own families that may sound okay because that's what we believe, that may not necessarily sound the same to another family,
Yeah.
right? And like I said earlier, we eat family style. Our teachers and our kids, we sit and enjoy the same meal at our meal time. So it's a pleasant time. And then in our menus, we talk to our parents and we ask them, what are the types of foods that you serve at home? So we try to incorporate that because we know the socioeconomic demographics of the families that we serve. So, we may have some arroz con pollo on the menus, tacos, stewed chicken. We have, beans and rice. We might have enchiladas. We've put jerk chicken on the menu. Not highly seasoned because we are serving 3-year-olds, but some green beans, some pigeon peas, the diverse menu.
Sounds amazing. It sounds like really wonderful programming. I think Head Start in any place is really phenomenal, but sounds like you guys are really doing exceptional work. So we covered a lot of ground. This was amazing. We did. Any key takeaways, anything that you really want like parents and caregivers to kind of walk away from here, like knowing and feeling empowered about?
Well, I know earlier we had said, it is March, it's National Nutrition Month, and the theme for this year is Fuel for Your Future. So the message is that no matter what our age is, no matter what our activity level is, making those healthy food and drink choices provides our bodies with energies now and fuel for the future, right? We can buy foods that are in season, shop local when possible, right? Try to enjoy more plant-based meals and snacks, right? And when you buy foods in season, that helps you save money, right? Which is a big plus. So
Yes.
there's a lot of choices out there that we can make that are filling, keeps us nourished and costs less overall. So just a little bit of planning before you shop, that can go in a long way in choosing those foods that are affordable and satisfying for our whole family.
I love that. Fuel for your future.
Fuel
That's
for
great.
your future.
It's fantastic. Okay, well, Mavis, thank you so much. This was amazing, and really, you guys are doing amazing work. I'm so impressed and wish you guys all the best to continue the amazing impact that you're making in your community.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
Make sure you like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you for joining us on Kids Doc Talk.